In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. And welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 hand-picked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy. And this is a special Broads and Books bonus episode.
In our regular episodes on Wednesdays, we tell you about our favorite books based on different weekly themes. In every episode, you get one clear idea. We are obsessed with books. Obsessed.
It sounds better when we say it in that lower voice.
Yeah, it makes me feel obsessed.
Yes. And then, because we are obsessed, we had a thought. Those authors that write the books that we love, they may be obsessed with books too.
So we figured that we should ask them about their obsessions.
Yeah, like just get into the dirt about their obsessions. So that's what this new bonus series is all about. We're calling it the Broads Talk Books With.
Today, we've got Mona Awad. Those of you who've been listening for a while will remember that we recommended both
of them.
Her books. That's how good she is.
Good. Yes.
I recommended her first book, 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl, in episode 15, where we talked about body image.
And I recommended her most recent book, Bunny, in episode 22 about scary stories. And plus, it was my favorite pick from 2019.
Great pick.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we got Mona on the phone and we talked about everything.
Everything. Like literally everything.
Turns out she gets as obsessed about books as we do.
She really does, and it was glorious.
It was wonderful.
She makes so many amazing recommendations, and you will find all of them in the show notes on your podcast player and on our website. You will absolutely find something to add to your increasingly unrealistic to-be-read pile.
If you've subscribed to Broads and Books in your favorite podcast player, you'll get each of these bonus episodes right to you. But you can also find them at our website at broadsandbooks.com. Everything that you need, we provide.
Everything, Erin. Everything.
Everything.
And now, here's our interview with Mona Awad. I think we like to start off with, what was your favorite book as a kid or a teen?
As a teen, oh my gosh. I gotta go.
Which can be very different than as a kid.
Yeah. Okay. As a teen, what did I love so much? I mean, I've just changed so much. Yeah. I loved The Diaries of Anais Nin. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You were sophisticated
Yeah,
as a teen.
I might have thought I was. Yeah. But yeah, no, I adored them. She was just so frank about her desires and her anxieties and her she had what Marion Keyes, who I love, is an Irish writer, calls like sudden wild enthusiasms. And she would just like, she just allows herself to be carried away. And I just thought that was such a beautiful thing when I was a teen. She made me so excited, just about life. And Marguerite Duras, I loved The Lover. I was obsessed with that book. I remember where I was when I read it. I read it in High Park in Toronto. And I remember sitting on the grass and reading it and thinking, oh my God, this is like the most incredible thing that I've ever read, And so my first stories were always like written in that spare kind of like way that she has, that only really she has. And they were so pretentious and horrible. Like my initial forays.
I mean, that's a phase.
Yeah.
That's a phase you have to go through, right?
It totally is. Yeah. But yeah, Marguerite Duras and Anais Nin, I think, were my first big loves, for sure.
Another thing that we've talked about a lot on the podcast is people that had struggled with reading because maybe they were introduced to a classic too soon, or they struggled with a book right out of the gate. Was there anything you struggled with, or a classic that you had trouble thinking, yeah, this is a classic?
Yeah.
Ours was Moby Dick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can imagine, I kind of had a weird relationship to the classics, I think, because I did this kind of roundabout thing. There was like this goth girl in high school that I was kind of obsessed with because she just seemed so amazing. And she had all this obscure knowledge of like literature, but her taste was very, looking back on it now, I think it's very much like, an 18-year-old goth girl who reads that kind of taste. So she loved like the Russians, and she loved, she loved Camus, and she loved Beckett, and so I read all those things because I was like, well, if Danielle likes those things, I got to read those things. If Danielle does. And so, that
that should be our new bracelet.
Yeah,
Danielle
does.
We're doing it.
So like, I don't know. I kind of fell under that spell. So my initial like loves weren't really the classics. There were kind of these more postmodern or, modern texts. And then it was only in my early 20s that I started reading, like I read Jane Eyre, and I read Jane Austen, and I love Jane Eyre so much. It's such a great book.
It still stands
It
up.
totally does. Yeah. And I mean, all the Austens are pretty wonderful. Although I remember feeling with the Austens, like I loved them, but when I read Jane Eyre, I was like, yes, she's like telling him the things, like she's actually like confronting him. There's no subtext. There's no like all of this unspoken shit between, the woman and the man. There's nothing like that. There's like, she's actually saying all the burning things inside of her to this man. It was the most exhilarating moment because I'd read so much Austen, to have like a frank confrontation, a frank admission of feelings that were messy. I just thought that was so beautiful. So I don't know. I mean, I think
it's a great way to.
Yeah, it's something I always come back to, is that moment in Jane Eyre. It's because I remember feeling like, wow, this is somebody who's actually brave enough to speak her mind and her heart.
You're so right. I hadn't thought about the fact that she's fuck sometimes. She's just like out.
She just has nothing to lose, and so. Maybe because she has nothing to lose, So I found that really exhilarating. And then I sort of started going more in the vein of like female writers, who were sort of off the beaten path a little, like Jean Rhys and Daphne du Maurier and Shirley Jackson. And that was kind of more my trajectory in reading than it was like the actual, I don't know, the classics written. I actually didn't read a lot of men. I have to be honest. Like,
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Never hear that.
Yeah, I know. And I'm kind of glad that I never had that.
It's a rare thing. I think a lot of us have had to unlearn some of the things that we learned by reading.
Exactly. And there's like an anger, I don't know, that I think I feel because there's something false about the way that things are presented. And I resent that. I resent that falseness. And so I just, whenever I would encounter it in a book, I would always kind of move away from it. Even F. Scott Fitzgerald, like his kind of, I love F. Scott Fitzgerald. He's a man that I did read and love. But his depictions of beauty, I found so just awful, very alienating, and just like, I felt like, how could I ever, and I of course would think immediately, like, how could I ever aspire to this? This is some sort of immortal vampiric beauty that no one possesses. Surely even Zelda didn't possess this kind of beauty. Like, and I don't know, that there's something about those eyes that are just so, I don't know. I just don't like it. I resent it.
Yeah,
you know,
great.
I resent it. Yeah, yeah,
resent it, for sure.
I hope that they put a new issue of that out, and you can put a blurb on it that says "I resent it."
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
eyes, I resent
Yeah,
it.
I do.
And I think everyone would
Yeah.
get it. They'd be like, exactly.
Like, I get
Yeah.
I get it. Yep.
Well, you talked us through some of your favorites when you were younger and then into your 20s. What books do you think made you want to be a writer?
Oh, that's a great question. I think Dorothy Parker made me want to be a writer because of the way that she wrote her stories. I love dialogue so much. I love the way people talk to each other, and I actually, for all my Jane Austen, just come on, say the thing. I love that. I love subtext so much, and all that unspoken shit, that's like under dialogue. And Dorothy Parker is totally in that vein and just knows how to do that in such a beautiful way. And so all of her stories made me really excited about storytelling because of the way that she wrote. There's like the scene kind of quality to it. And there's definitely kind of like a theatrical quality to them, because they're so dialogue driven. Yes. And so I love that. I love her wit and her sense of darkness, and just incredibly beautiful, funny, biting stories that were just filled with her anger, but also all of her vulnerabilities as a woman. And I love her monologues too. Like, her monologues are hysterical. Like there's one about her waiting for a phone call from a guy. And it's so good. And there's another one she does where her character is just getting drunker and drunker and like embarrassing herself more and more. So I think I've never. No, me neither. Yeah. It's so good. I think it's called Just a Little One. Cause in the story the character is just having just another little one, just another drink. And then she's like totally loaded by the end of the conversation. And the voice is just kind of careening into darkness, and you're just along for the ride. So it's very immersive, and I love that kind of immersive monologue style, or the dialogue kind of things that she does with those tensions between two people that come out in the way that they talk to each other. Her for sure. And then there's a book by Rebecca Godfrey, who I talk about a lot. She's a Canadian writer, and she wrote this novel called The Torn Skirt, which is probably like, it's definitely my favorite contemporary novel.
Great! Wow.
Yeah, I just love it so much, and it's about a teenage girl who gets kind of drawn into committing this crime, and it's this incredible kind of fever dream book, and it's got this incredible teen girl voice. Like, it's basically, I feel like it's The Catcher in the Rye for young girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't see us right now, but both of our eyes are just like,
really writing it down.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so dreamy and so rich and burning, and the voice is so kind of like, I don't know, it's like raw but vulnerable, and it's like posturing because it's like she's trying to defend herself, because she gets drawn into this act, but she's like ultimately just a girl, and it's just beautiful,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
putting that on the list.
I'm going to need a guarantee from you that you're never going to start a book podcast because you're way too good at this. You're going to put us to shame. Yeah, that was a beautiful description of a book.
Yeah, she's. I mean, I'm obsessed with that book. She knows, actually. Like, I actually had the good fortune of meeting her this summer, but I have been like evangelical about this book for years, and I actually read it every spring again because I just love it so much. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, shifting gears a little bit, we want to talk a little bit about what are some of the books on your to-be-read pile now? Like, what are a few that you can share that you're looking forward to reading?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I just picked up Night Boat to Tangiers by Kevin Barry.
yeah.
That looks really good. I'm excited about it. I did love Beckett when I was a teen, and not just because of Danielle. I mean, because of Danielle, but I did think
Good old Danielle.
good old Danielle. But I thought those plays were incredible, and I know that there's kind of like a Beckett quality to the book. So I'm excited about that.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think because I brought a whole bunch of books with me, and it's
great.
always the case that like the minute I think about my pile, I'm like, wait, what's on it again? I don't remember.
Of course.
I know.
You know?
Yeah, we're the
It's like
same.
when we ask about a book and then all books just a run from it.
They always do.
Like, I've never read a book.
I know. I do have to say, so I fell in love with Carolyn Kapnis's You last year. Yeah, oh my God, it's so good. What a great voice she's got, like, for that character.
Right?
Oh, I just love that bookseller so much. So yeah, I'm going to read Hidden Bodies. I brought it with me. I've been saving it,
Prepare yourself.
Oh, really?
That's a twisty ride.
Is it? Oh, I'm
It
excited.
is. It's so good. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because I think she's a great writer. I love that character.
Is.
Yeah. And that's another, I just love that immersive kind of voice. So that's why I love David Mitchell. He's for sure like one of my favorite contemporaries. And I think I did bring Slade House with me to reread
cool.
again. Yeah. I've read it
Yeah.
already, but I just love it so much.
I loved that it was just this very brief offshoot. of
I
the
know.
Bone Clocks.
I know.
It was so cool.
It was so cool. Do you like the Bone Clocks too?
I did. God, I that affected me so deeply
Yeah.
at the end. I'm not a big crier or anything,
I
but
know.
those last 10, 20 pages, I was just crying.
I know. I mean, it was like a whole life. Like,
Yes.
it's just incredible. I recently listed that. I think it was in Lit Hub as my favorite book of the decade. It
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
I mean, because it sticks with you.
I know.
Long after you've read it.
And I mean, how incredible. Like I always say, he's like the Daniel Day-Lewis of writers, because he can do this thing with voices. He's just got a gift for just going into people who are totally different than him. And
yes.
And you believe
In fact,
it.
he inspired some things that I wrote, and I did not write it very well. But it was very I was just thinking, how when you read something that immersive, like you said, it's just very inspiring and very exciting, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, he's awesome.
Okay, so thinking about books that you are planning on reading, what's a book that surprised you recently that you have read?
Oh, yeah. The Heavens by Sandra Newman, which was unbelievable. Like I wrote, I never post a review on Goodreads ever. And I had to write, I'm in awe of this book, all the stars, because I was in awe of it. And it did surprise me because initially I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. Because it's set in the early 2000s and it's about a couple. At first, that's what you think it's about. It's about this couple and the beginning of their romance. But really what it's about the woman, and she, every night she goes to sleep and she dreams herself into Elizabethan England, where she's having a relationship with Shakespeare.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And this is the most genius part of it. I mean, the parts in Elizabethan England are so incredible. Like, they are so incredible. And there's something so moving about them because it's somebody's dream. Like, it's a dream, So the way that it's written is I don't know. It just feels so alive and vivid, and there's a dreamlike quality to it, but it's believable. The way she writes it, it could be either or. She could actually be there, or this could just be a dream that she's there,
Wow.
But when she wakes up, she's actually altered contemporary life, like reality, because she's gone back in time.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Adding that to my list.
So things keep shifting. Like, little things at first keep shifting. Like, for example, she wakes up and she no longer has vertical blinds; she has curtains, or it could be the other way around. But just these small things, and they start to accumulate, these differences, and they get graver and graver. And her relationship to current events, she starts to see herself as kind of an architect, of current events going on, and it's set right before 9/11. So it's really, Yeah, it's but you don't know if she's crazy or if it's really happening. I mean, Sandra Newman really walks this beautiful line in the book where it's not certain, and it's so moving. It's beautiful. Yeah, wow. I highly recommend it. Yeah, you got to add it.
That's amazing.
It's incredible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings us to, how do you usually find your book recommendations?
Well, I was a bookseller for a really long time.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And so what I would do, when I got the very coveted job of working I used to work in a bookstore called the world's biggest bookstore. It was literally called that. And
oh my gosh. Was it actually the biggest bookstore?
It looked like a Walmart. I mean, it really did. It was like the lighting, it was like all neon lights in there, you know, it was hideous. It was hideous, but it was huge. And this was in the 90s, and they had like a tarot section that was just this glass case full of tarot decks. Like, that's how amazing this bookstore was. There was an occult section. There was the fiction section was like an entire, I don't know. It was I don't know, probably a mile of shelves, you know. It was it was amazing. So I would just I would pretend to be dusting the shelves, and I would just go through and find things like cold buys. I love cold buys, you know. So I would just, I fell in love with the way that books were described on the back. And that's how, and booksellers are really there is kind of a high fidelity quality to the way that booksellers love things, you know.
That's an amazing image.
So I would get recommendations from other booksellers, a lot of the time. And then, I tend to get my recommendations from, booksellers. I love asking booksellers what they're reading, because they usually have some good hidden knowledge. And then also writers whose writing I like. Now I'm fortunate enough to sometimes be able to meet people in person, and awesome. I mean, Laura Nakamura, I love her work so much, and she's the one who recommended that I read Sandra Newman's The Heavens, so that's why I read it. You know, and then
so you need to follow her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything Lauren Kapoor likes, I'm down for.
So she's the new Danielle.
She's totally Danielle. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
Please tell me she dresses in goth makeup. And
she definitely has a goth soul. There is for sure. And actually, her book, The Paper Wasp, is really wonderful too. It's very kind of Lynchian. It's a kind of like a Mulholland Drive type novel. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Excellent. Man, okay, so first off, Erin and I are getting way too many books to add to this episode, but that's wonderful. But, you know, as I think you know, we recommended actually both of your books in separate episodes.
Awesome.
We loved Bunny so much.
Oh my gosh,
it was incredible. Great. But just thinking about, you know, and I know you and I had talked about this for Adroit Journal as well, but what do you think are some of your classic horror/scary book favorites?
Oh, okay. Well, for sure, Slade House by David Mitchell. I mean, that's, you know, that was actually very important to Bunny. I read it after I had hip surgery, and I was on a lot of drugs, and in a very vulnerable place, you know, and I read it and I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I mean, this kid is going to be devoured by these monsters, and he sees his soul. He sees his soul. I mean, it's the most beautiful moment just before I don't want to. Okay, I guess no spoilers, but that moment where this character sees his own soul, I just thought was the most beautiful thing, and it was a horrific moment, but it was this moment of wonder as well, and that was a huge inspiration for Bunny. That horror could be wonder, and wonder could be horror. You know, that those two things together work. They actually can be experienced at the same time. So Slade House was so important. And then I love Shirley Jackson so much. And there was a novel that I read by her called Hangs a Man. And it takes place, I think, at Bennington College. And it's about this kind of unstable girl and her relationship to another kind of unstable girl. You know,
yes, okay.
So that one for sure. This character is not a character that you can really trust. Her concept of reality is very skewed, And you're definitely like, but you're occupying that perspective. So you're in it with her. And so when things begin to kind of veer darkly off course, you definitely question what's real and what's not. And that was just a beautiful, like exhilarating, but dark experience. So I love Hangs a Man. And Hangs a Man is probably an all-time favorite, along with The Haunting of Hill House. Which is brilliant.
Excellent. That's so interesting. We can see some, just from the way you describe it, some through lines from those books.
Yes.
To Bunny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I have to say, I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with me about this. And I did read this after I finished Bunny, but I think The Pisces is kind of horrific. Yeah. I mean, I loved it so much. Like that book, I mean, there are parts of it that are almost unreadable because it's just so visceral that it's like, it kind of crosses a line for me. It's almost like American Psycho, which was really, that's a favorite for me for sure. And that was a big influence on 13 Ways of looking at a fat girl for sure. That Patrick Bateman character, like just how all of the obsessions with clothes, and I don't know, it's just, he's like a monster,
Huey
but
Lewis.
he's produced. Yeah. Oh God, I know. The Huey Lewis. Oh my God. He's so great. What a great book that was.
It is. But you're right about some parts you have to almost put down. Like you can't quite, it's just too much.
It was, it was too much for me. I had to like kind of sift past them, but it was all worth it for the ending. I mean, the ending is unbelievable. I just love those final moments of being in this like kind of cold soul. But another one that was really important for 13 Ways, and it's definitely one of my favorite books of all time, is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that book. I love how the narrator has these pockets of blindness.
Yes.
That the reader knows about the blindness, but the narrator doesn't know and is proceeding with this idea of the way things are. And there's something so heartbreaking about that.
Yes. And how your sort of opinion of him is changing as you're reading. Yeah. That's terrific.
Yeah. I just love, so those two, I would say for sure.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. More to add to the pile.
Right? I'm
scribbling. I'm like, I got to get all these down. Yeah.
So you've been on book tour now,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully it sounds like you have a little bit of a break, but I imagine, especially with both of these books that you've written, you have some very interesting and devoted fans, perhaps. And it makes us wonder, like, have you had any strange fan interactions at any of the book tours that you're willing to share?
Oh yeah. It was actually kind of great. Like I had some really amazing fans when I went to the Calgary Word Fest, which is a wonderful festival. There was a girl who was named Samantha. I know. And she was like, she asked me to draw a picture of a bunny so she could get it tattooed. Yeah. So I did. I drew a picture of a bunny for her, and I warned her that I can't draw, and that my ex-husband used to ask me to draw things just so he could laugh at what I drew.
First off, asshole.
Yeah.
So your art is on somebody's body, perhaps.
It might be. She might have done it. I don't know. But yeah, she was a pretty, she was like a pretty serious fan, and that was really moving. And then there was another girl there I could tell that the book meant like a great deal to her. And it was actually very moving to hear her talk about it. She clearly felt like it was her book. And I know how that feels. Like I actually kind of just felt like, wow, I know what it feels like to have this kind of relationship to a book. I have those books in my life, and I'm just so honored that I could, that Bunny has become that book for her.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. And then there was another girl who brought a notebook with her, and she had these things she wanted to tell me that she observed.
Oh boy.
And she kept referring to the notebook, like while she was talking to me and pointing at it. But I never saw what was in the notebook. It was very important for her to keep referring to it because that's where her notes were. And I thought that was.
Did you record this conversation?
No.
Is it coming out somewhere?
No, but I remember like she was so earnest, and I remember being like, I remember being really moved by it. I didn't really have answers for her observations.
Were they observations about the book or just like in general?
There were connections that she was making between, between Bunny and 13 Ways that she really wanted me to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. Like style things that I do that she picked up on, like little style things, like how I move back in time a lot and within like how I do like flashbacks and kind of layer flashbacks and stuff. She was really interested in showing me how she observed that. And I thought that was really cool. Like she took it very seriously. And I think it was, so
and each
that was
time
cool.
were you just like, yep, I meant to do that.
Did
Meant to
it?
do all of that.
Totally. Yep. All on purpose. Yeah.
I'm glad you noticed. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I had one 70-year-old woman tell me that I'm 70 years old and I still feel like a fat girl. And she was like,
oh my God.
Oh, that broke my
yeah,
heart.
that was really, really moving. I saw her in person. She came to one of my events and she told me that.
Oh, wow.
And I felt really like touched by that and kind of heartbroken.
Yeah, I just want to hug her for a long time.
I know, right? So that was really wonderful. 13 Ways was actually really moving that way. I had a lot of people who like very seriously connected with the voice.
In a very personal
It's a
way,
very
I would
personal
imagine.
topic,
Yeah. So that was awesome.
Yeah. Well, is there anyone, you mentioned one before, but anyone that you've wanted to meet author-wise that you've gotten to meet?
I'm just trying to think here. Let me see. There have been a few people. I mean, Emma Donohue's first book, I don't know if it was her first book. It might have been her second book, that she wrote a collection of fairy tales that I just adore called Kissing the Witch. It was written in the 90s and they're wonderful. And a play was made of the collection that I saw in Toronto. And so I was like a rabid fan of hers for my teens and 20s. And so when I got to meet her, I met her on the Giller tour, because we were both up for the Giller Prize in 2016. She had written a book called The Wonder, which is really beautiful, that I loved. Yeah, so I got to meet Emma Donohue, and that was a huge moment for me. And I, told her so for sure. I met Kelly Link's husband at a writing festival and told him that I was a huge fan of hers because I am a huge fan.
Say, pass this on.
Pass this on, please. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And Amy Bender, I'm such a huge fan of Amy Bender's, and I did get to meet her last spring, so that was really wonderful.
And in all of those situations, you kept your cool. Everything went okay.
I think I did. I mean, I did not keep my cool when I met Jeanette Winterson. Let me tell you, I wrote her a really creepy note on a legal pad that was pages long. I was 22 and I brought her flowers and she promised me she would read the note. And I pray that she never read that note. I pray that she lost it. Cause that was the single most embarrassing interaction.
Or she's had her eye on you for a long time. Like
she might,
She's like, let's restrain this one.
Oh my God. So embarrassing. So embarrassing. She was an obsession. I was obsessed with Jeanette Winterson. Like obsessed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. But did you get a tattoo of her in person?
I did not. I did not go that far.
There's levels.
There's levels. Yes, there's definitely levels for sure.
So question, since you've published your 2 books and you had a writing process for a long, long time, but has your love or joy of reading changed since you've become an author?
Yeah, it really has. And it's unfortunate. I wish this weren't the case, but there are times when I have to, first of all, if I'm working on something, which I almost always am, there are certain books that I just can't read because I don't want to get hooked into another voice. And,
sure.
So, or maybe I won't read translation during that time because I want, because there's a way that, I want to read things that are written in English, and I don't want to read a translated text, although sometimes translated texts are so beautifully translated that it just kind of, I don't know, it goes beyond that and it gets elevated to this level where you're like, wow, okay, this is amazing. Such Small Hands by Andres Barba. I wrote that translator a fan letter because I loved her translation so much. Of Such Small Hands.
Fan letter?
No, I'm getting better at being not creepy. I used to be such a fangirl. Like I'm frightening. I think I'm a little frightening in my fandom, but no, I can't. There are books that I have to be like, well, I'm working on this thing, so I can't read things in third person, or I can't read things from a male perspective, or I can't, But then there are other times where I'm like, oh, I can't not read this book just because of that. I'm gonna just, going to read anyway. But it is now, it really does feel like my reading and my writing are, I don't know, one determines the other.
Yeah,
that
makes sense.
So I don't love that, and I think I'm less. I might put books down faster sometimes.
Yes.
I might. Yeah.
I think we found
We
just
do,
even
yeah.
doing this podcast, we do that much more freely and
Quickly,
readily, which can be good, but also we probably miss out on some stuff.
I
because
think
we're
so
not giving
too.
it patience.
Yeah. So I'm always like proud of myself when I push through, because sometimes it's very rewarding, but I found that often I'll push through and it's not, and that's
We've only got so much time.
right. Exactly. And there are so many books. So
Well, what's a book that you think everyone should read, that you demand that everybody read?
It's a lot of power.
Yeah.
and that is a lot of power. I do love David Mitchell so much. And I just think, if I'm choosing a contemporary book, I would probably choose Cloud Atlas, or I would, or maybe I would choose Bone Clocks, just because of the, I don't know. I love the picture of a whole life like that. It's so wonderful. I guess I would maybe also choose a book by Jean Rhys. Like, there's just a way that she writes loneliness that I think is very, I don't know, I think would make people maybe more empathetic. It's very, again, it's a very like immersive voice of somebody who is kind of invisible. And I think it's, I don't know, there's just so much beauty in the way that she captures that kind of alienation and that kind of invisibility and that kind of sadness that you can just feel just by virtue of just being alone, So maybe a book by Jean Rhys, any of them really would fit that bill. She's, every single book is kind of about that sort of loneliness. So I think maybe Jean Rhys or David Mitchell.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, David Mitchell for empathy as well, just being able to dig into someone's soul and body for 100 pages at a time.
I know.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And maybe The Remains of the Day, that's another wonderful one that I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, every episode we also, because pop culture is everywhere, we talk about some of the things we're obsessed with, TVs, movies, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. What are you obsessed with right now?
Yeah, I could watch British skinfluencers on YouTube forever. Like,
what?
Yeah, like Carolyn Hirons. She's she used to be a facialist, but she does all these they're sort of vlogs about skin products and skincare products, and she just reviews them. Gosh. She reviews product, and she's wonderful. She's so smart and funny, and so all of the women like her. They're actually there's a whole community of British women who do this. So Nadine Baggett and Sally Hughes, and they're all wonderful and funny.
I wish you could see our facial expressions right now, because we're we didn't know this existed. This sounds amazing.
Oh, there's a whole world. And Gothamista is wonderful too. She's not British. She's in New York, but she does a lot of reviews of K beauty and J beauty products, and she's got stunningly incredible skin. So it's kind of more like it's a voyeurism thing to kind of watch her. There's the fascination there, for sure, that I don't know how healthy it is. And then I love Marian Keyes, the Irish writer. She does weekly vlogs, and she is so funny. But she's suffered from depression, and she's a recovering alcoholic, and she has body image issues, and she talks about all of that very openly and in a way that's just so I don't know, it's so comforting that she's just so open and so smart and perceptive. And she's really wonderful. Like her vlogs are brilliant and she's incredibly funny. I mean, I would recommend watching her vlogs if you're if you need to be cheered up and you're interested in people who talk about the writing life and who talk about just being a woman. And I don't know, she's wonderful. Marion Keyes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds wonderful, especially around this time of year. We need some pep.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Kind of selfish question for you, but I know the last time you and I talked, news had just come out that Bunny is being adapted.
Yes.
Any news that you can share at this point? Have you been working on that?
Yeah. The latest news is that the pilot has been written and the pilot is excellent. It's written by this. She's a playwright, but she's also I think she's been a showrunner for AMC before. Her name is Megan Moston Brown, and she has now been given the green light to write the rest, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm excited to read more and see what she's done, because I think we have a good shared sensibility. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. I kind of wish they add a character named Danielle, though.
I know. Danielle. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Wonder what she's up to.
I know. I wish I could tell her, you kind of lit up my reading life. Totally changed it. Yeah.
Aaron, that just happened.
It did.
And it was glorious.
It was so glorious.
What was one of your favorite things?
Well, overall, the way that she talks about books.
Yeah,
it's
you were having a
beautiful
real moment.
and
You were
eloquent,
afraid.
And I'm so scared that she's going to start a podcast because she would murder us.
Yeah, she'd be direct competition and directly straight up murder us.
And I can't do what would require a takedown because I love her too much.
You couldn't be cold and calculating
No,
like you would be in other situations. Yeah, it's true.
She's too wonderful.
It's true. I loved Goth Danielle so much. I want to make how people do the "What would Jesus do" bracelets. I want to do a "What would Danielle do" bracelet.
That seems like a good plan.
Yeah, I mean, it might be pretentious, but hey, it'd be great.
It would be great. It would be great.
Yes.
Also loved hearing about where she worked at a bookstore that was like a Walmart of books. That had all these amazing sections.
But also I like the way she described it, and it sounded terrible too.
I know. We were both like, oh, and then she kept describing
yep,
it. We're
yep,
like,
it sounds bad. Yeah,
but it's great.
Yeah. A lot of books. And the fact that she took full advantage of
Good
that.
for her.
Yes. I really enjoyed her fan interactions.
Yeah.
The one that
for sure.
had her draw a bunny so that she could tattoo it on her person.
Which I was simultaneously awestruck by and then almost kind of jealous. Maybe I should have a bunny tattoo.
I know. I mean, maybe she would draw us like a bunny and we could both, I mean.
Like a ride or die bunny.
I also liked the fan that brought a notebook of observations and then sort of never really showed it to her, but expected her to be like, yes, I get it.
But also so cool that she loved those interactions so much and how personal everything is to her because she writes such personal books. So it's awesome to hear that other audience, readers are getting that same level out of them.
It has to be such an interesting and rewarding experience to have that level of fandom.
Yes.
But also maybe scary in some ways too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that one where she mentioned that the old woman that came up and said that she still feels like the fat girl. I mean, talk about a poignant moment from after writing that book to have someone connect to it that way. I mean, that reading experience was so personal to me too that I can imagine that some of those fan interactions are just loaded with all kinds of emotional feelings and discussions.
Absolutely.
But she's the perfect person. Who wouldn't want to talk to her about everything?
Right. I love too that, as we said, she's as obsessed about books and people as we are, to the point where she wrote a creepy fan letter on legal paper to her favorite author.
That's terrific.
Do you think it would be bad if we wrote her a creepy fan letter on legal paper now that we have this connection?
No, I feel like we should.
I think she would honor it, right?
I think
be
she
real
would.
happy with
I mean,
it.
go one of two ways. So
maybe some dried petals along with.
Oh, all right. That's the next level. Sure. Yep.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I'm all in. Yeah. Also, British skinfluencers?
I'd never heard of these words
No.
put together.
Never had.
And then in finding some of the links for this episode, it's a whole other world, Erin. It's, it's weird. But I could see how it'd be very entertaining as well.
Yeah. I mean, I put it on my list because I got to know.
Yeah.
And if she likes it, I mean, all those book recommendations were phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I have to believe all of her
Maybe I've
recommendations
been
are phenomenal.
maybe I've been treating my skin wrong. Maybe the Brits know
Well,
what they're
that's
doing.
for sure. I've been treating my skin wrong, but that's a foregone conclusion.
So this was wonderful, and we will be back next Wednesday with our regular weekly themed episodes. In the meantime, you can head to our website, broadsandbooks.com, check out all of those episodes, and if you've missed any, now's a perfect time. Get listening.
And like we said, this is a new series of bonus episodes we're providing. Have you seen and heard them all?
You should have.
Adrian Broder, Angie Kim,
There's more coming.
so much more coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got tons to help you figure out what to read next and make you laugh. And if we've done that, we'd love a review. You can give us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can give us a review on Podchaser. You can email us directly with your creepy fan letter
I was
of
gonna say,
love.
we'll take it on a legal
We will
pad
take it all.
with pressed flowers. Will do. If you've been listening to our regular themed episodes, you know we've taken some great listener ideas too. So if you have a theme suggestion or a challenge, send it our way.
God, we'd love to hear it. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, broadsandbooks.com.
Happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
To me, I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
Cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you...
this isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.